Sorry to interrupt, but I have some great news. This Sunday, May 1st at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which means the time here in California, I'm going to hold an online TOEFL speaking class. It's going to be about an hour and a half, teach you a lot of important points to improve your score for the TOEFL speaking section on your next exam. And if you guys are interested or want to learn more, click on the link below. But don't worry, I'll remind you again at the end of the class. So now, back to the class. Welcome. My name is Joseph, and in this weekly online YouTube class, we're going to focus on improving your reading, listening, speaking, and writing skills for the TOEFL and your academic English by focusing on a very special word, vulnerable. So, let's go ahead and get started. In order to improve our writing skills, we have to make sure that we know how to spell this word correctly. So we spell this word V-U-L-N-E-R-A-B-L-E, vulnerable. Now I've noticed in some of the homework that you've been turning in that some of the vocabulary words that we've been studying are misspelled. So I want to make sure that you guys really try this. So make sure to write it out 7 times correctly in your scratch paper, and make sure to pause the video and try it right now. To improve our listening and our speaking skills, we have to learn how to say this word correctly. So in English, when a word has more than one vowel sound, as we should already know, we break it into syllables, right? So vulnerable has 4 vowel sounds, 4 syllables. Vulnerable. And when a word has more than one syllable, one of them gets the accent, which means we say it louder than the others. And that's how we can say this word correctly, by doing that. So in this word, vul has the accent, the first syllable. So how do we say this word? Vulnerable. Again, vulnerable. So let's go ahead and have you pause the video so you can practice saying that accurately 7 times. So let's go ahead and do that now. To continue to improve our listening and our speaking skills, we're going to focus on the R sound in vulnerable. Now this is a bit of a tough sound, but there are only 5 parts to it. So if we focus on those 5 parts, we're not going to have that much trouble with it anymore. So the first part is that our lips are relaxed when we make this sound. They don't do anything. And the second part is that the air passes through our mouth and not our nose when we make it. So relaxed lips and air through the mouth, like we've learned for a lot of other sounds. Now the third thing, of course, is the tricky one, the position of the tongue. So what you want to do is you want to curl your tongue. So you kind of have like an L shape, and you want to make sure that the tip of your tongue doesn't touch the roof of your mouth. So it's just nice there in the middle. So how do you make this sound? Right? Curled tongue, the tip doesn't touch the roof of the mouth. Now the fourth thing is that this is a voice sound. So if you put your fingers on your throat when you make this sound, you'll notice that it vibrates. And that lets you know that you're making it correctly. The 5th step is also important and crucial because you have to emphasize this sound. This is a long sound and not a short sound. So we say not but Now, bringing it all together and putting in our word, how do we say it? Vulnerable. So again, hear the R sound there. Vulnerable. So in this word, it's a little bit difficult, but keep practicing it and you'll get it right and you'll really master the R sound. So let's pause the video so you can say it 7 times so you can really master it. So let's go ahead and do that now. To improve our reading and our listening skills, we have to know what vulnerable actually means. And it means easily hurt, open to attack, weak. And we use this word as an adjective, vulnerable, as an adverb, vulnerably, and as a noun, vulnerability. To better understand this word, let's bring up a hypothetical example. At this point, I usually bring up our friend John, but today I'm going to bring up John's wife, Susie. Now, Susie is a wonderful wife, and she knows that John is under a lot of stress these days, so he's sensitive. She knows that he's very vulnerable. And there I use vulnerable as an adjective to describe John's condition, his situation. He's weak. So Susie is extra nice to him. But John's trying to live a normal life. So today he decides to cook dinner for his family. He decides to cook spaghetti. But unfortunately for him, he burns the sauce. So the spaghetti comes out terribly. So he walks with the dinner in his hands towards the kitchen table vulnerably. So there I used vulnerably as an adverb to describe how John walked. Not with confidence, but scared, open to attack. Now, everybody's pretty nice to John because they know he's stressed. But John Jr., John's son, is pretty direct. So when he looks at the spaghetti, he says, "This looks horrible." And John is hurt because of his vulnerability. And there I use vulnerability as a noun to describe the source of John's pain. So after this, John runs to his bedroom, closes the door, and cries himself to sleep. So I don't really know why I'm so tough on John, but I still know he's a great example for us to learn from. Now for the fun part. This is where I get to review your work from last week. Now last week's word was apparatus, a noun which means a complex instrument or a machine with many parts. And your homework was to use that word in a hypothetical story to illustrate its usage. Now I got a lot of great stories, but the one that I chose comes from a student, Nasseruddin. So I hope I'm saying that name correctly. Now Nasseruddin wrote, "Nasser is a teacher of English in a foreign country, comma." Now there's a little bit of trouble with the comma because we actually need to replace that with the period, because Nasser is a teacher of English in a foreign country is a complete sentence. And remember, in English, when we have sentences, we separate them with periods, or a comma and a conjunction such as and. But here we're going to use a period. Now, before the period, there's no space, so we connect it with the word. And after the period, there's just one space, and the next sentence begins with the capital letter. So we actually make the capital H in his student. Now, that might seem simple, but a lot of us make mistakes with that. So watch out for that in your writing. Very important stuff. So the story continues. His students virtually gave up studying. So there we use virtually, an old vocab word, which is an adverb that means almost. Now, studying is misspelled. Now, that's normal, it's usual, but now you know why in the beginning of the video, we always have a spelling section, because we want to improve that in our writing. Once or twice is no big deal, but many times that actually has a bit of an issue in our writing style and in our TOEFL score. So how do we spell studying? S-T-U-D-Y-I-N-G. Studying English because they hypothesized, again an old vocab word, which means imagined, that it's a really difficult language. So we might all agree with that. Comma, so, very good. He is now looking for creating an apparatus. Now there we use apparatus, our noun, correctly, because we're just looking for a make-believe imaginary machine. Remember, this is a hypothetical story to help people with English. Now looking for creating is actually non-idiomatic. It's not quite fluent. We have two choices. We can either say is now looking for an apparatus, or he is now trying to create an apparatus. So we'll say trying to create because I think that matches what we were getting at. Now we continue to solve their problems. Now this is a bit of a usage issue, an idea of fluency, because we describe that the students are having trouble, they're having a hard time, but they're not necessarily having problems. We didn't identify any specific issues. So solve their problems doesn't quite work here. We might want to replace it with to help them. And that's a great story. Now the first mistake that we saw with the comma is actually incredibly common, and we all make that mistake. So if you click on the link below the video, we actually have some exercises on NoteFull and some lessons to help you so that you never make that mistake again. And trust me, you want to visit that because at the end of the exercises, I think you'll almost never make this mistake. And that's definitely going to improve your TOEFL score and improve your general writing. So I hope you guys check that out. So thank you, Nasseruddin, for submitting that story. I hope you guys learn from it. And again, great job. I hope you enjoyed the class. Now it's time to learn about next week's homework. I want you to record yourself using the word vulnerable while answering an example TOEFL speaking question number 2. And that question is, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Children should help with household tasks as soon as they're able to do so. Use specific reasons and details to support your answer. So remember, we want to answer this in the standard TOEFL format, so give yourself about 15 seconds or so to prepare, get comfortable, make sure you have an answer with 2 reasons, and then in your answer, which should take about 45 seconds, remember that's the TOEFL time, you want to give your answer, reason, an example of support, reason, example, and then your conclusion to tie it all together. And you can do that by clicking on the link below, which will take you to a page on NoteFull where you'll see a little recorder. So as long as you have a microphone, you'll be able to click record and record yourself speaking. Then you'll be able to listen to it and make sure that you feel comfortable with it before you submit it. So I hope you guys again enjoyed this class. It was great. Don't forget to do the homework and don't forget to subscribe so that you'll know when next week's class is out. So until next time, which is next week, bye-bye. Don't forget that if you're interested in registering for our online TOEFL speaking class this Sunday, to click on the link below to find out how to register and more about the class.